Hey, joining us now, we have Mr. Josh Waters from Political Strategies back with us. Josh, welcome to the program, sir. How have you been over the last 24 hours?
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me back. I've been okay, just trying to keep track of everything. Thankfully, the House and Senate are out today, so nothing super new there, but just trying to keep track of what to expect next week. I think it's going to be the last week, so just trying to stay up to date on that.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty, I'm glad that there's nothing being voted on today and everything's kind of chill. But last week's going to be the establishment, the progressives, it's, their last gasp to try to get everything that they are told that they need. But I really do want to revisit this, Josh, because the members of this committee, I want to revisit this disclosure bill that failed, because I'm having a hard time getting over it. I mean, we could go through the audio we played yesterday, but you had former state representative Nate Bell. He was down there saying people were being threatened, people were in tears. You have state representative Richard Womack saying that he was offered $20,000 to $30,000 in a campaign account if he would vote for Medicaid expansion. You have former Representative Bruce Westerman, now Congressman, saying on the House floor, are you going to trade your vote for 30 pieces of silver? And then you look at the members of this committee and you look at the no votes, and you just got to think, wow, I mean, the question has to be asked, even though I know certainly not everybody on that committee is making money off of a healthcare entity or a Medicaid entity, right? Obviously not. But the question has got to be asked of them. And so I wonder, have you thought, what do you think about the idea of asking some of these guys the question, hey, have you ever received money from a Medicaid entity?
Yeah, I think, that's kind of the point of Senator King's bill, is to basically ask that question and let everyone know and let everyone in the public know the answer to it. Because that's really, I think, unless you make it law, I think that's the only way you're going to be able to get a true answer on this. So that's essentially what the bill does. So I think it's a fair thing to ask, with so much taxpayer money going into these entities for Medicaid, and then not knowing if those Medicaid providers hire or send money back to these legislators through some other way, which, and that's not even saying that that's going to be illegal. The bill's just saying, hey, disclose that. That's just something I think people should be able to know about. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, it's nothing bad happens to you. I mean, essentially, and a lot of people might be asking, some people try to say, Paul, what's your motivations or what's your agenda? I mean, my motivations are that if the truth is known, there will be corrections made, because I believe the people of Arkansas are being misrepresented. I think we're way more conservative and we want to be left alone to live our lives, to run our businesses, and we the people, a lot of times, unfortunately, the human condition, the people who are in government are the ones that really, really, really want to be there, because they, in many cases, can't create anything for themselves, and it's a harsh reality. It's a harsh truth. But in this case, my agenda, I just think that even if you disclose this stuff, nothing bad happens. The people still have to find out about it, is my point. Meaning they still have to find out about it, and then they got to go and get voted out of office, assuming that some of these payments aren't so egregious that you would just resign out of embarrassment. Just being ethically just debased, I guess. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. At the end of the day, transparency in government is, I think, one of the best things we can have, and this is a bill to have more transparency. It's reasonable. I think there is some concern. I spoke with a legislator today. I think there's some concern from DHS that this would somehow put a burden on them. But if you look at the language of the bill, it just says that they should create a form where they can disclose the information and then alert the Medicaid providers, hey, you need to do this. It's not, every month call and tell them to do it, or, publish it all online and, have a super complicated process to
It's
do
just
that.
a form.
And
That's all it is. So DHS...
Right, create a form and alert the providers that, you have to fill out this form.
Yeah, I mean, come on. If this was a big government program, if this was a big government program, they'd say that creating that form would save them money. You know what I'm saying? Like if this was something that the progressives and the big guys wanted, you say no, this will save us money doing this form, and yet they claim that. So they're claiming like an administrative cost to the taxpayer. That's what they're saying. We can't do this because it'll just be too much money. When in reality, there's got to be. I mean, I hate to do this. I hate to speculate like that because it is a speculation. But come on, there's got to be Medicaid dollars going to government employees, not just legislators, but probably government employees as well.
Yeah, I don't know the whole process. I don't know how much time this would be in addition, but the bill specifically says, what they're going to have to do is the disclosure statement shall be in a form prescribed by the Department of Human Services, and the department shall notify Arkansas Medicaid providers of the duties created this section no later than January of 2018. So, like I said, the way it reads is they have to create the form, and then they have, until January 1 of 2018. At some point in the process between now and then, they just alert the Medicaid provider, hey, this is the form, you need to fill it out.
And it's not even retroactive. I know previous attempts to pass this have made it, it was making it retroactive, which would have been, we would have found out some real interesting stuff. But it's not even retroactive. It's just now going forward.
Yeah. And it's not, every single transaction. It's those over $2,000 or more. There's an exemption. I know, speaking with the legislator, there's an issue or concern about, someone's a patient and how that comes into it. And so there's language specifically exempting that out. So
do you think, I don't know. I mean, you mentioned you talked to a legislator. Were they willing, this particular legislator, I don't know if you want to divulge the name, were they willing to be maybe convinced that the DHS was bluffing here and that this was, you know what? I don't care if it does cost money, honestly, because I know what's going on down there. But are the legislators that you've spoken to, are they receptive at all to saying, hey, maybe this is good for the transparency and everything?
Yeah, one of the legislators I talked to, he just said, I think it's reasonable. So I think that kind of sums it up. It's reasonable. Another legislator wasn't exactly sure, what all was in the bill and wanted to relook at the bill. And so
I got a text message.
Relook at the bill.
I got a text message. Mark in Washington County is writing me, and he says, so how many forms will be needed to disclose Medicaid dollars to legislators? Isn't that a problem? If it's so many that it's a burden? Now, that's funny. I don't think that's what DHS is saying here, but maybe it is saying, well, good grief.
Maybe
we'll be covered in paperwork of legislators disclosing how much extra money they're making on top of their already inflated salaries.
Yeah.
Oh,
and remember, though, it's not legislators. It's just the Medicaid providers.
That's
the entities that are getting the Medicaid money.
Yeah. So it's the Medicaid providers that have to disclose. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense why that's even a big deal. The burden's on the Medicaid providers. They're taking taxpayer money. You got to do it, and I don't know. Hey, real quick, because we got to go here in a minute, Josh. What do you think of this other bill over at Conduit for Action, or other article about Linda Collins Smith bill SB 726 on closing the ethics loophole for legislators who are attorneys and who are running bills for their clients? You think this is a good piece of legislation, right?
Yeah, Conduit for Action does support the bill, and there's I think earlier you had mentioned about this getting out of the Senate. It hasn't gotten out of the Senate yet. What they did on the floor Thursday, they voted to approve an amendment, which was actually the bill. So what happens a lot of times is a shell bill will be filed because there's a deadline for filing bills, and an amendment has to be filed to basically be the bill. And so that's what was voted on and approved yesterday. And so the amendment has been approved, and it's on the calendar to be heard on Monday.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm really glad the correction. So it didn't get out of the Senate yet. It just got the amendment added in. Oh, that was right. The nephew number 2, Jeremy Hutchinson, he was not allowing the bill to be heard in his committee, right, in order to get the amendment on. Is that what was going on?
No, he's not on that committee. The way it worked, you can sign it was not passed out of a committee that morning. But
okay. I'm sorry.
Senators, they signed it. Oh, that's fine. They signed it out of the Senate State Agencies Committee onto the floor, and then when it was on the floor, the amendment was voted.
Well, why didn't? Okay, answer me this. Well, I'm sorry. My apologies to Senator Jeremy Hutchinson. I was thinking about his antics in judiciary. This was state agencies. It's been a long session. So why didn't it get out of the state agencies committee? Like, who was holding it up? I don't understand.
I can't answer that specifically, but I think some people thought it was already a law, or the law was already there. But I think the article does a good job saying, well, there's a law there saying you can't lobby, but if you put in your contract, the lobbying part's not part of this.
Okay.
It's just your attorney or a consultant.
Sorry, I apologize for my mistake, Josh. It was a Linda Collins Smith bill, and most of her bills are being held up in judiciary. So I got confused. All right, man, I appreciate it.
Fine.
Josh, have a great weekend, sir. I mean it this time.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Paul.
Folks, it's Johnny Cash Friday, and you're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Thanks so much for listening. We can't do it without you. Back in a minute.